Now let's look at the situation in Syria. But our focus today is on a foreign player in Syria, that's Russia. Russia was an ally of Bashar al-Assad, Syria's ousted dictator. Moscow helped Assad stay in power for years. They supported him with air power to help drive the rebels back. But now the Syrian rebels have won. And this puts Russia in an awkward situation. For many, Moscow is an enemy. That being said, Russia isn't a country to be trifled with. They have a strong military presence in Syria in the form of two bases. There's the Hmeimim Air Base near the city of Latakia. This is the base that Assad fled from. This is where he boarded his flight to Moscow. Russia also has a naval base in Syria in the city of Tartus. This is Russia's only naval base in the Mediterranean Sea. They built the Tartus base back in 1971, more than 50 years ago. The Hmeimim base is newer. It was built in 2015. Now, both bases are an integral part of Russia's military strategy. They help Moscow project power overseas. They're used to resupply Russian forces abroad, like the mercenaries currently operating in Africa. So the Syrian bases are crucial for Moscow, but their future is uncertain. This is what the Kremlin said when asked about the bases.
There are no final decisions on this issue at the current moment. We have contacts with representatives of those in control of the situation in the country now, and everything will be settled through dialogue.
Russia says it is in talks with the new rulers of Syria. They're trying to work out a deal to keep the bases operational. But it's not a done deal yet. And they're working on a backup plan in case they're forced to abandon the Syrian bases. The Russians have started moving out some equipment. There are satellite images of the action. They show Antonov AN-124s being loaded. These are the world's largest cargo planes. They're being packed with Russian equipment and being flown back to Russia. These planes are also carrying diplomats from Russia and also from allied countries like Belarus and North Korea. But not all the cargo planes were headed home. Some of them took a different route. They landed up in the North African nation of Libya. 2 aircraft were spotted making trips to a Libyan air base. These are the Ilyushin 76TD. These aircraft landed in the Al Khadim base near the city of Benghazi. These planes were presumably carrying Russian military equipment, which raises the question, is Russia relocating its military assets? Is it shifting base from Syria to Libya, and why Libya? Let's look at the situation in Libya first. It's a mess. This country has been in crisis for more than a decade, since 2011 in fact, when its leader and dictator Muammar Gaddafi was assassinated. Libya has been divided since then. It is currently controlled by two governments. One is based in the capital Tripoli. This is the government that is recognized by the United Nations. This is the first government. The second government is based in Benghazi. This one is backed by an armed group called the Libyan National Army. It is led by Field Marshal Khalifa Haftar. So Haftar is the power behind the Benghazi-based regime, and Moscow has been supporting him for years. In return, Haftar has allowed Russia to build up its military presence in Libya. As of today, Russia controls multiple bases in Libya, 4 air bases and 1 port. All of them are in areas controlled by Khalifa Haftar. It should answer the question, why Libya? But is it a viable option? Is it viable for Russia to move its forces to Libya? Can it really abandon the Syrian bases? In theory, it is possible. Libya's Tobruk port is still being built up. In time, it could rival Syria's Tartus. The Al Khadim air base near Benghazi may one day replace Hmeimim. The other 3 air bases are almost a bonus. Remember, Russia has forces across Africa. It used Syria as a base to resupply them. It could now use Libya instead, which is actually located on the continent of Africa. So theoretically, it would make coordination simpler. A direct flight from Russia to Libya could speed things up. But there's a cost to all of this, and that cost is stability. You see, Libya is an unstable country. Yes, Syria was at war too, but the battle lines had been frozen for years. and the Russian bases were in areas firmly controlled by Assad. In Libya, it is different. It is more volatile. What happens if the UN-backed government overthrows its rivals? Or if the two governments decide to patch up? What happens to Russia's bases if a unity government asks them to leave? Libya's situation is fluid, so it is unwise for Russia to depend on this nation. Even if Libya lets them stay, this is not exactly a win. Russia already operates 5 bases there, along with the 2 in Syria. That's 7 military sites in total in the region. Even if Russia moves everything out of Syria, it still loses 2 bases. And then there's a location to consider. Syria is in West Asia. It allows Russia to exert its influence there in West Asia. It will be harder for them to do the same from Africa. And finally, there's the issue of Turkey. Direct flights from Russia to Libya will have to cross Turkish airspace. I'm talking about Russian military and cargo planes. They will be at the mercy of Turkish President Erdogan. With Syria, they could bypass Turkey, but they won't be able to do that with Libya. Long story short, Libya will be a poor substitute for Syria. If Russia wants to maintain its current level of influence, it should try to work out a deal with the Syrian rebels.